about this now with my guest, former New York congressman and former gubernatorial candidate in the state, Lee Zeldin, and the Five co-host and Democratic strategist, Jessica Tarlov. Thank you both for being here in person in studio. Lee Zeldin, let me start with you. You've served in Congress. You've been through this rodeo a few times. Are we going to get a deal? And if so, who's going to say they won?
I think there will be a deal. As far as what it ends up looking like, we'll see. I think that there's a play call still to be worked out where there's going to be a push to just increase the debt limit, maybe do a short-term extension. How does this work when you actually get to the week of, you have a few days left, you're going to hit the debt limit at midnight, and I think public opinion will weigh in here, will factor in the decision, the political calculations that get made. What does the will of the American public seem to be? What is it being perceived as inside of the White House and inside of Congress? I think a lot of people thought that the House Republicans would never even be able to pass their own bill. You actually have some members of the House still talking about, AOC just put out a statement still talking about how Kevin McCarthy will not be able to get the votes to do this, this, and that. Well, that actually happened. The bill has passed. I think it's good that they're talking. I'm actually somebody who's blamed Republicans and Democrats for how we got to this point in the first place. They need to figure it out. It's their job.
There's certainly plenty of blame to go around. You're right about that. But Jessica, a lot of Democrats did used to support welfare to work. They thought Bill Clinton backed it, Joe Biden backed it. In principle, again, there's lots of evidence that it does help lift people out of poverty. But now, is the party now so dominated by the left that it won't even agree to sort of relatively small measures like this?
I don't think it's fair to categorize it as so dominated by the left. The Democrats of 1996, that was a while ago, right? We're not talking about something that passed under the Obama administration even. The 1990s were a radically different period for both Republicans and Democrats, if you look at where the parties are today. And Joe Biden, like things that he's voted on in terms of crime, obviously he has evolved in terms of that. I do think as well that we'll get a deal. I imagine that it has to happen really quickly. I ran into Charles Payne from Fox Business in the elevator, and he showed me the schedule of where they need to get a deal hammered out in terms of it being ready to go on June 1st. And it's this Sunday that needs to happen, actually. So they've got to work fast. To AOC's point about McCarthy doesn't have the votes, he has the votes on this bill, which are not going to be acceptable to the White House. So there will be a new bill. And when you have a 3 or 4 seat majority, and I don't know what we count George Santos as, like half a congressman, it's unlikely that it's going to be smooth sailing through that.
But Biden, it did sort of hint this week that he might accept some of these welfare to work measures. Is that going to be rejected by the left of his party? I mean, is he going to be able to get that through the AOC, the likes of AOC?
I think, listen, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, and Hakeem Jeffries is obviously new to the job, but we know that Nancy Pelosi's, when people talk about Speaker of the House, they're still saying Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi. She knows where her votes are, right? And he knows as well. So I think it will get through. But I wanted to point out that Arkansas, for instance, was a state that implemented these work requirements for Medicaid, and it was an absolute disaster. And to the point that Joe Biden was talking about, lots of poor people ended up losing their health care.
Other states have done differently. Lee, very quickly, Kevin McCarthy has managed to get this through so far. We'll see what the final deal will be. Are you confident that with that very small majority, he'll be able to get a deal done?
If you compromise too much, then you end up with the decision that every speaker has to make, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Does a majority of your majority support it?
Right.
That's one rule. I think that might have been called the Hastert rule back in the day.
Do we talk about Hastert anymore? Missing from that speaker photo.
I noticed that. So you have the majority of the majority decision.
Witness protection program stuff.
And now Pelosi wouldn't bring a bill to the floor unless she felt like she can pass it just within her own conference. And if you compromise too much, you're going to start bleeding out some of your conservative support. So it's a decision for the speaker to make based off of the substance. But as of right now, he has it. If you compromise too much, you'll start bleeding too much Republicans.
Okay.